Times have definitely changed on this channel. Fire Emblem Awakening. I've talked about this game so many times that it's not even funny. Fire Emblem Awakening is easily the best game I played in 2014, and it's pretty much tied with Dissidia Duodecim as my favorite game. So I think it's time I give this game the credit it deserves. When it comes to Awakening, there are a lot of things I could count down, but I decided to count down probably the best part of the entire game, that being the playable characters, or units as the game puts it. I'll be judging these characters by their personality, their battle capabilities, and overall how much I like the character. However, there shall be some rules. First, no avatar. Including the avatar on this list is pretty much cheating. Secondly, I'm not including any of the units unlocked through Spot Pass chapters. Sorry Priam, but maybe next time. However, I will be including other paralog units on this list, including child units. Oh, and by the way, major spoilers for the game, as to be expected. Now it's all taken care of, let us commence! While I'm not the biggest fan of Chapter 8, mostly due to that freaking sand that lowers your movement range, there were two really good things about it. The first of these things is the number 10 candidate of this list, the mighty Gregor. Now at first, this Russian accented mercenary may just seem like Braum from League of Legends but with more hair on his head and less on his face, but as time goes on, you realize that there's more to him than just being a manly Russian stereotype. Not that there's a problem with that. For starters, despite being one of the oldest units in the game, Gregor is actually one of the most skilled in combat, as proven by his in-game capabilities. He's a very strong physical unit, as he has really high HP, strength, and skill stats, albeit he does lack an increase in speed. His default class is the Mercenary, and with a Master Seal, he can be promoted into a Hero or a Bow Knight. On the other hand, you could also reclass him into a Barbarian or a Myrmidon. As a Barbarian, his growth rates are a bit lower than Vake's, but the ability Gamble does come to good use for him. However, the Myrmidon class can be a good choice for Gregor, as he's one of the more physically durable Myrmidons in the game. But what makes Gregor such a great unit is his character. Gregor is an entertaining unit and quite friendly with a majority of other soldiers in the army. However, he is easily hurt when he's harped on about things like his age. What's also surprising is that Gregor actually has quite a depressing backstory. In fact, Gregor is not even his name, but the name of his brother who was killed by bandits because Gregor wasn't able to save him quickly enough. It's kinda sad really, but even with that, Gregor is still able to keep a positive mood both in the conversation and on the battlefield.
Who wants more Gregor?
In a game like Awakening, you're bound to have your fan favorite characters, and when it comes to the female units, pretty much no unit stands out as a fan favorite more than the Dark Mage Tharja. And while she's definitely not my favorite female unit, nor my favorite mage in the game, I can definitely see why she's such a popular character. Okay, it's probably because of her design for most, but that's beside the point. Tharja is a dark mage from the nation of Plegia, and is quite possibly the most terrifying soldier in Crom's army. She's a powerful master of curses and hexes, and isn't afraid to threaten her own allies with said abilities. What's even more terrifying is that upon meeting your avatar, Tharja will fall insanely in love with them and do whatever she can to win their affections, even if your avatar is female. And cue the fanfictions. Joking aside, Tharja is without a doubt one of the best mages in Awakening. For starters, she's the first dark mage you get in your party, meaning that unlike Miriel or Rickon, she can use dark tomes like Nosferatu. Also, while her strength and skill stats aren't the greatest, she makes up for it in spades with her defense, her speed, and her insane magic stats. Her advanced classes are the Sorcerer and the Dark Knight, and both of them help make her a formidable unit. While her skill decreases with the Sorcerer class, her magic increases and she's given the skill Tomebreaker, which in turn can make her the perfect counter to enemy range units. And as for her Dark Knight class, she loses her ability to use Dark Tomes, but is given skills like Slow Burn and Life Taker to make up for this. You can also reclass her into an Archer or a Knight, but because of her high magic stats, doing this would not be a smart idea to say the least. Really, there's not much left to say about Tharja that I haven't said already. I'm not addressing those controversies.
You deserved worse.
Remember how I said earlier that there were two good parts about Chapter 8? Well, allow me to introduce the second good part, that being the playful Maniket Noe. As the first Maniket you get in the game, she's quite the force to be reckoned with right from the get-go. Granted, you might have to use her sparingly until Chapter 12 when the Maniket exclusive weapon, the Dragonstone, becomes available to buy in the shop, but once that's not an issue, Noe can easily be one of your best units. Her resistance and luck may not be the greatest, but her strength and defense cancel this out easily. Also, interestingly enough, Noe is one of the few units whose initial class cannot upgrade via a Master Seal, the other being the Togwell units like Panne. Her two alternate classes are the Mage and Wyvern Rider.
Something doesn't seem right about a dragon fighting on top of another dragon.
Though no matter which class you reclass her to, she'll keep her dragon weakness, even if that class usually doesn't have it. But easily the best part about Noe is her personality and backstory. Despite the fact that she appears to be in her preteen years, she's actually the oldest non-spot pass unit in the game, reaching an age of 1,000 years!
Hey, talk about wearing your age well.
Despite how ancient she is, she definitely acts more like her physical age, being one of the more childish units in the game as a way to cheer up her allies and, in turn, show how truly mature she is. She also loves to play games outside, usually with some reluctant playmates.
I wonder how that would have turned out if she went to elementary school.
Noe wins!
One of the things that makes Awakening so popular is the inclusion of the marriage system, in which units with high enough support can get married and actually lead to them having a child unit which can become a playable party member. And for our first child unit on this list, we have none other than the Avatar's offspring, Morgan. Now I know what you're thinking. If you're not counting the Avatar, why are you counting Morgan? Isn't that cheating? Well, not really, as there's no sense of customization to Morgan as there was to your Avatar. In fact, the only thing you could choose from Morgan is what class he or she ends up reclassing into, like pretty much any other unit in the game. Speaking of which, Morgan is easily the most diverse unit in the entire game. Because Morgan is the Avatar's child, he or she has a lot of options on battle capabilities, and the stat growth changes are heavily influenced by Morgan's other parent. This also plays into which classes Morgan can reclass into via a second seal. It all depends on Morgan's other parent. Depending on the classes of his or her parents, Morgan can actually be your most powerful unit in your playthrough. But now let's cover Morgan's character, as there's quite a bit to be said. Morgan's personality actually varies depending on his or her gender, which is decided by your avatar's gender.
Long story short, if your avatar is male, then Morgan will be female. But if your avatar is female, then Morgan will be male.
Simple enough, right?
Male Morgan is much more mellow and slightly more dorky, but is also in general a much nicer person and even takes the less serious units quite seriously. Female Morgan, on the other hand, is wackier, more insensitive, and even somewhat sadistic.
Someone's been taking lessons from Tharsha.
In the long run, Morgan can be one of the greatest parts of your experience in Awakening, both in battle and in support conversations.
Just as planned.
I'll make this quick.
I think that's everything that needs to be said.
Who dies next?
You know, I was considering putting a major spoiler alert at the beginning of this segment, but Smash Bros. Kind of ruined that plot point.
So on that note, let's talk about Lucina. Out of all the child units on this list, Lucina is easily the most plot relevant and one of the most popular characters in the game. And that was before she was revealed to be in Smash 4. As the future daughter of Chrom, Lucina is the one who led the child units into the past to stop the ruined future that they come from. And she went under the identity of Marth for about a third of the game, until she found herself in a situation where she had no choice but to reveal who she was. Due to being the daughter of the main protagonist, she has some large footsteps to walk in, and man does she succeed at that!
Wait, how does that work?
Being one of the only two lords in the game, Lucina proves to be quite an offensive force in the game, especially since when she joins your party, she's already at level 10, so you can promote her to Great Lord right away if you wish. As for reclassing, the classes she can change to no matter who her mother is are Cavalier or Archer, which are the classes that Chrom can reclass to as well, but the other classes she can reclass to depend on who her mother is. Admittedly, Lucina starts off as one of the weaker child units, but can easily become one of the best in due time. But it's not just her battle capabilities that make her a fan favorite. There's also her personality, in which many people consider to be a hit or miss. Because of the chaotic future that she had to live through, Lucina is quite serious and stoic, and doesn't usually like to take anyone's crap if it distracts her from her goal. I am aware that there are people who don't really care for her because of that, but I don't mind it. Besides, despite what one could think of this, no one can deny that her more childish moments can be absolutely hilarious. From trying to go dress shopping with her mother to taking lessons from Owain on the purpose of a weapon's name, which is followed by her renaming the Falchion Pointy Demon Spanker.
What?
Lucina is easily one of the most popular female characters in Awakening, and it's understandable why this is the case. And to help prove her popularity and relevance, as I said earlier, she made it into Smash 4. She also happens to be my main in that game. No regrets.
Whatever it takes.
Oh, and you thought Tharja was messed up. Okay, yeah, she is, but look what happened to her daughter! Noir is pretty crazy. Or, at times, she's pretty crazy. At other times, she's timid and somewhat of a coward. Confused yet? Well, long story short, she was constantly used as a guinea pig for Tharja's magic experiments through her years, leading to her shy, cowardly ways. Until Tharja created a special talisman for her to deal with these issues. And by deal with these issues, I mean trigger a second personality in which she becomes absolutely insane and sadistic. So yeah, calling Noir an interesting character is a huge understatement. And while this is the best part of Noir, her battle capabilities are pretty great too. Her default class is the Archer, and she has high skill and speed right from the get-go, so she does her job as the Archer pretty well. But because of her mother's inheritance as a Dark Mage, she has some alright magic stats. And depending on who her father is, reclassing Noir to a Dark Mage, which is one of her default reclasses, might be the best decision for her. You could also reclass her to a Knight or promote her from an Archer to a Sniper or Bow Knight. Depending on who you marry Tharja to, Noir can be one of your best units in battle, and her split personality definitely helps in making her character so awesome. Though I can't help but feel pity for her. I mean, it must be tough being Tharja's experimental guinea pig. Poor Noir.
Is it over?
And now the moment that many of you have been waiting for. Among the many popular elements of Awakening, one of these has managed to give Awakening the title of Waifu Simulator 2013. Because of both the inclusion of an avatar and the support system, players shipping themselves with the game's units was expected, and many Awakening fans have their own definitive waifu in the game. Now it's time to present my favorite female unit in Awakening.
You asked for it!
Say what you will about other female units in the game, like Cordelia, or Severa, or Lucina, or Tharja, but pretty much no one can deny that Chrome's little sister Lissa is freaking adorable! Being one of the first units you get in the game, and one of the few who continue to appear constantly through the story, it's hard not to grow attached to Lissa, and the game definitely gives you a lot of reasons to like her. For starters, not only is Lissa adorable, she's also the key to many of the funniest moments in the game, especially in the first 2 chapters of it. She's cute, she's quirky, she loves pranks, but is also a bit more dynamic as she's insecure about her role as royalty and fully admits to her flaws. Then there's her battle capabilities. Her default class is a cleric, and thus is your first healer in the game and proves to be quite a useful unit from the get-go. Because she's a cleric, she actually can't attack, so the only way to level her up is by using her healing abilities, and then you can promote her to a war cleric or a sage. Granted, you could also reclass her to Troubadour or Pegasus Knight, which can also work pretty well for her, but I prefer making her a sage. Honestly, there's a lot more I can say about Lissa, but I think I've described it perfectly. She's useful in battle, she's a great character, and she's just so freaking adorable!
Well, that's that.
So, remember Henry?
I'm gonna kill you!
Yeah, anyone who saw Top 10 Magic users probably remembers this crazy mage. And because Kitsune Hawk and I already said a lot about Henry in that countdown, I'll make this quick. Personality-wise, Henry is an absolute nut and known for his sadistic outbursts, all while keeping a very unpleasant smile on his face, but still shows some sympathy for his fellow soldiers. Gameplay-wise, while he doesn't have the highest magic stat, like I said the last time I talked about him, he's still one of my most reliable units, especially when promoted to a sorcerer. And as for his reclasses, those being the barbarian and the thief, they're honestly odd choices due to his magic proficiency, but it's not a bad choice if you want some good skills for Henry. Not much else left to say, so let's move on.
Yeah, blood! Hands, hungers.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to the handiest of all units and the son of Lissa, Owain. There's quite a lot to be said about this beautifully over-the-top master of the sword, but I'll try not to be too long. For starters, Owain is quite the theatrical character to say the least. He's very over-the-top and dramatic, very much like a generic anime protagonist. Funny I should use that analogy, as he likes to scream out attack names as he fights, which, little trivia fact, are almost all named after other Fire Emblem games. He also believes that naming one's weapon is an important part of fighting, as it supposedly makes the weapon an ally and not just a tool. Yeah, I think Lucina calling him a colorful character is a major understatement. But it's not just his hilarious character that makes him number 1. It's also how reliable of a unit he is to me. Owain's default class is the Myrmidon, which is easily my favorite base class in the entirety of the game. Myrmidons are exceedingly useful for me when I play Fire Emblem, and Owain is definitely no exception. He may have a slower defense growth rate, but he makes up for it with his high speed and skill, consistent double attacks, high dodge rate, and increased likeliness of critical hits. He can be promoted to either Swordmaster or Assassin, both of which being absolutely great choices for him, but can also be reclassed into a Priest or Barbarian or whatever classes are inherited from his father, though I recommend making him a Swordmaster or Assassin. But here's the most interesting part about Owain. In every single playthrough I have done of Awakening, Owain is one of the few units who has never died. I'm absolutely serious. He's a force to be reckoned with whenever I use him, and he's made even better by his dramatic personality and hammy one-liners, solidifying his spot at number 1 on this list.
Down, Sword Hand.